Hi everyone. I want to share with you one of my very favorite tools. It's the 4.5-inch grinder. If you're not familiar with these, this is a super powerful tool. This is great to have in your arsenal. If you already are familiar with it, you might find it interesting just the same. I want to tell you a little story before we get started about this. I've seen on the internet some people say the horror stories with these tools are exaggerated. They're not. I had an incident one time with this tool, and it rocked my world. It was just before Thanksgiving, and I was cutting some steel, and I got a spark in my eye. And every time I'd show my eye to somebody, I'd say, "Hey, can you see it? Do I have something in my eye?" Everybody said, "No, I don't." Well, the pain got so horrific that I finally called up my eyeglass doctor, and he had an emergency number on his door. And we called that because it was Thanksgiving Day. It was closed up. And he came into his shop and he opened it up for me. And I said, I got something. It feels like I got something in my eye scratching me. And it's just, I can't sleep. I can't think. It's just killing me. So he goes, "Well, let's find out." And he put a dye on my eye and put me underneath this powerful magnifying glass. And in the back was a piece of steel that had chipped off. Believe it or not, it had left a small little rust spot on my eyeball, and I had no permanent injury or anything, but instantly felt better. He removed it, and then he had to grind off the rusted spot on my eyeball. Okay. Don't wear safety glasses with this. This is no joke. This is nothing to fool around with. Get a pair of goggles, something that nothing can enter all the way around. It makes a seal around your whole face. This thing will eat your lunch. Okay? That's my first caveat. So for all those people out there that say this is over-exaggerated, no, it's not. And then I was reading on these grinder wheels. Some of them say before the first use, spin it for a minute or spin it up to 3 minutes, before you use it. Okay, now, that's all I want to say about the safety aspects of this. Oh, one last thing. Whenever I'm cutting masonry with this, I wear a dust collector too, and I like to have the shop vac real close, and you'll see why in a moment. But I think after all of that, if I didn't scare you off, this is such a fantastic tool. And by the way, it's not a paid promotion. I really like this Hitachi. Had it for a very, very, very long time. Okay, 4.5-inch grinder. What can you do with it? A ton. The first thing you're going to need, though, whenever you're fooling around with it, unplug it. You're going to need a spanner, and that's one of these. This one's an adjustable one, so that it'll fit this chuck down here. You put your thumb or your finger, and it locks it in place, and then you can spin it loose. Where the grinder really shines for me is cutting metal. I like these 4.5-inch 40 grit metal cutoff wheels. And you can get away with using them quite a bit, but always go and inspect it first. Make sure there's no chunk missing, no fractures in it, because this thing will shatter at the speed that it turns. But let me show you how wonderful this is for cutting applications. Make sure it's unplugged. Grab your spanner wrench. Put your wheel on. Plug it in. And this is just a piece of scrap metal that I found. And let's just say that I'm going to cut it, I don't know, right here. Okay. Goggles. Let me show you how easy it is for me to cut. How's that for cutting metal? Oftentimes on a job site, I'll cut bolts, I'll cut brackets, metal brackets. Let me just show you. This is a nail that I'm going to show you how I cut. And I'm just going to show you, this is a deck screw, how easily it'll zip through that also. That's primarily what I use the grinder for, is cutting brackets, bolts, screws, and nails. Let me show you another application, and that's using the grinding wheel. That's where it gets its name. I really don't do a whole lot of metal work, so I'm not an expert in this area. But let me just show you. I've got a couple of wheels, and it says in the very beginning, the first use, run this in the grinder for 3 minutes before you use it. Let it spin. And the DeWalt one said 1 minute, I believe. But I've got a few of them. And again, they install like all the other ones. They come in different grits. And a lot of guys will use this for like sharpening a lawnmower blade. Okay? Just make sure that you dip your blade every so often so you don't change the temper. A lot of guys will use this obviously in welding. They'll put a bevel on it to get a clean edge so that you'll get a good penetration with your weld. So the grinding wheel, and this is another tool that I love for using the grinder. This is called a flap disc, and it's a sanding disc with a bunch of little sandpapers that are laminated together. And you can get it in different grits. This is a very coarse grit. It's 36, and you can get it a lot finer than that. But I use this for roughing out things. Say I'm making a bowl or a spoon or a seat, the concaveness in the seat, or kind of like a belt grinder when I got to get two pieces of material approximately the same level. I'll just take this grinder and I'll zip down it. Very, very, very handy. And when I do this, let me show you. I won't run it, but you get the idea of how to use a sanding disc. This creates a great deal of dust. So when I'm using the sanding flap, I'll wear a set of goggles, a dust mask, and I'll have a shop vac positioned just like this, pick up all that dust. Very, very, very handy. All right, let me show you another wonderful tool. I have a wet saw that I cut tile with, but every now and then I'll have to do a small job and I won't have the tile saw with me. So let me just show you what I'll do. Let's just pretend we're going to cut the corner out of this, you know, just for demonstration purposes. I need that little chunk removed from this hard tile. That's going to go up maybe around a door jamb. Okay, let's just pretend for a moment like that. I'll use this diamond wheel and I'll cut that. Did you think you could cut hard tile with a grinder? It's amazing what this tool will do. It's a wonderful piece of kit. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you is how I cut masonry products with this. Again, using my cutoff wheel right here. This is 4 inches thick, 8 inches wide, and 16 inches long. A lot of the time, you'll throw something like this maybe in a hole that you dug to keep the post from going down a little footer before you add your concrete. Sometimes you'll use it for a paver, you know, and you might have to cut a little bit. What I'm just saying is sometimes you got to cut something like this, and you go, well, how do I cut it? 4.5 inch grinder. Let me show you what we're going to do. I'm just going to cut it right like that. What we're going to do is we're going to bring that grinder in multiple passes until it goes the full depth of whatever this will cut. And then we'll take a hammer and we'll just give it a whack, and it'll cut it right on the fault line. Now, dust mask, goggles, and if you're inside a building, which you probably wouldn't be, shop vac. I'll show you how easy it is to cut this. Can you see the score mark I did right here? Cut that all the way through. Okay? About, I don't know, less than 1/2 inch. And then I take my hammer and I give it a slight whack right over my fault line. How is that? That is how it's done. Alright everyone, that's what I use the 4.5 inch angle grinder for. I love it. I think it's a fantastic tool. It's something that has to be respected. You have to be careful with it, but it will get the job done. I'll catch you on the next one.